Okay, welcome everyone, and thank you for having me. It's a real honour. I'm John T, or Jonathon. I'll give a little bit of an introduction to where I come from, my background, my passion. A little bit about FarmEd, which is where my day job, 4 days a week. Then a very, very brief introduction to regenerative agriculture. There'll be some formal stuff, a little bit about the key principles, then a little bit extra about what I think it is and where we can take this. And I look forward to your questions at the end. Next slide. Why is that not working? There we go. This is my place, Connegree Farm. I farm 180 acres in the Cotswolds, a National Trust tenancy with my wife, Mel. We're a small farm, a very small farm, 180 acres, although it is the average size farm roughly for the UK. We couldn't make a living, we couldn't survive without being regenerative. We have to make the most of what we've got on the farm. We're very diverse. Hopefully we're resilient, and that's really come home through COVID at the moment. We've got traditional Hereford cattle, Cotswold sheep, more rare breeds, got Gloucester spot pigs, a livery with horses. We've got lots of wildflower habitat and natural capital all over the place. Every acre is in stewardship in the HLS at the moment. We've got bees making the most wonderful wildflower and borage honey. We've got a 2.5 acre market garden, a joint venture with somebody, growing the most 50 different crops, salad crops, veg, fruits and herbs. And we've got some teepees, that middle picture there, right in the middle of our pastures. So we've got something called parties in pastures. And those few slides really sum up, those pictures sum up what Regen Ag is about for me. It's about diversity, starting with soil, lots of different crops, rotations, enterprises working together to optimize land use and hopefully having a resilient business that is low carbon, if not carbon neutral. My day job when I'm not managing the farm is at FarmEd. And if you've not come across FarmEd yet, please do Google it or follow the links at the end of my slides. Find us on social media. FarmEd is the new centre for farm and food education based at Honeydale Farm, which is owned by Cotswold Seeds, Cotswold Grass Seeds, Ian Wilkinson and Celine, you may have come across in the past. They bought the farm about 7 years ago as a demonstration farm. And over the last 2 or 3 years been developing FarmEd, which is the Centre for Education. I'm the manager there now. Our mission at FarmEd is to really accelerate this move towards regenerative farming system and sustainable food. So we have to link everything together. We can't just stop at the farming bit. We have to look at the whole chain, the whole food chain. And what do we do at FarmEd? Well, it's about providing space for education, for research, for knowledge exchange, getting people together, banging heads together, inspiring people, but also micro businesses and personal development and mentoring. Again, just trying to move people's mindsets and get people to think a little bit differently and really try and get Regen Ag and true sustainability into people's hearts and to help people's confidence really to make a change and do something different. People often ask me, who's the audience for FarmEd? Well, it is everybody. Our marketing team pull their hair out when I say that, but we must speak to everybody. And I'm sure many of you realise this and feel the same way. We've got to start at local communities. We must speak to schools and families. We've got to link with universities and colleges, researchers, and of course farmers, the landowners, and agronomists, new entrants, foodies, chefs, career changers, NGOs, the whole lot. So very diverse, excuse me. And actually in the first 3 or 4 months, sorry, I just had a biscuit, that was a bad idea. The first 3 or 4 months when we opened just before Christmas, we had a range of people across this audience type at FarmEd, very exciting. Of course, COVID has slowed that right down, but we'll be open again soon, hopefully. It's an inspiring place to be, some beautiful buildings, eco buildings set right in 106 acres of demonstration farming. And we've got all sorts of things to see on the farm, from sandfoin plots to heritage wheat, to species-rich permanent pasture, agroforestry, wetland management, all sorts. It is, of course, all about soil. That's where it starts, and nearly every visitor gets some sort of farm walk or session or knowledge exchange, hands-on event, starting with soil. So I hope to see you there in the future. Just to give you a flavour for what we were planning for this year, but hopefully will be revitalised either for the end of the year or into next. Oxford Real Farming Conference. We're really honoured to be the first in the field, the home of maybe the summer school of Oxford Real Farming Conference. This year, no, but next year we've reorganised it, a wonderful 2 days of workshops. We're looking at having a Regenerative Ag Lit Fest. I noticed Matt had Gabe Brown's book written by a chap called Courtney White, actually, or edited by Courtney White, and he's coming to our events next year to speak directly to you guys and us, which would be lovely. From my angle, I'm developing something called the FarmEd programme in regenerative farming and sustainable food. We'll be running modules in soils, farm and ecology, agroforestry, etc. Hands-on workshops to really get people's skills and knowledge and confidence up in regen ag, and all sorts of other things from pop-up food events to rural skills training. So I keep mentioning this thing called regenerative agriculture, and I'm sure many of you have read about it, seen bits about it, heard about it on the archers. It's everywhere right now. But what does it actually mean? The key for me is that regenerative agriculture goes beyond the old school conservation, farm conservation. It goes beyond sustainability. Sustainability to me and many others is a corrupted word. We've used it for decades. We haven't really got anywhere. We're still totally unsustainable as an industry and as a society. And there's no point trying to protect, conserve, sustain what we have today for tomorrow, because we're already in a negative position. We must rebuild, and that's where Regen Ag comes in. So Regen Ag draws from the principles and practices that aim to increase biodiversity, build better soils, improve water catchment, enhance nutrient cycling. It's all about rebuilding, doing more than what we do now. The ultimate aim really is to capture carbon in the soil, which we can do, and many of us are showing that right now, and above ground biomass, with the ultimate aim of reversing current global trends of atmospheric accumulation of carbon. And if you think about it, only farming and forestry can really be carbon neutral. So there's great power to our hands, really. We can do it. If we can't do it as a sector, no one else can. If you get Regen Ag right, you should have higher yields, lower input costs, be more resilient to climate instability, whether that's the drought that now we are heading into, or the wet, or the winds, or the snows. We can be more resilient, and many of us have shown that over the last few years through diverse cropping and regen approaches. And let's not forget farming and growing communities, the people in this, the farming families. You can be healthier and happier, which is key. We shouldn't forget that within our farm systems. For me, we go beyond that. Regen Ag, for me, it's about rebuilding wider landscapes, rebuilding community linkage and engagement, rebuilding those local food systems, and creating and rebuilding more rural enterprise and rural entrepreneurship, basically jobs. So a diverse, regenerative, circular economy is what I really want to see out of the wider Regen Ag agenda. Where does it come from? Well, Regen Ag isn't new. The term is, I guess, maybe 15 years old, started in America with Gabe Brown and friends. It draws from things like agroecological approaches. It draws from the best of the organic approaches, and it uses, or often uses, holistic management practices, thinking outside the box, thinking a little bit wider, joining things up, working with nature, not against it, which is key. I'm going to take you very quickly through the sort of the key principles of Regen Ag. What does it mean? What might it look like on your farms or estates in the future? Principle number 1, minimize soil disturbance. Try and sell the plough if you can. That's one of Gabe Brown's top tips. Sell it and then you'll never have to use it again. Allow your living soil really to flourish. Get that mycorrhiza going and leave it alone. So you're going to see more zero minimum tillage, no dig horticulture, etc. out there hopefully, which results and hopefully means less chemical intervention and maybe more perennial crops as well. That's the first key thing. Let's stop disturbing our soil. Principle 2, maximize crop diversity. Let's move to a polyculture, not a monoculture. Let's get away from wheat, barley, oilseed, rape in rotation. We must do things differently. So at FarmEd, we've got a diverse rotation, an 8-year rotation, 4 years of cereal or cereal-based crops, followed by 4 years of a grass lay, a herbal lay. And straight away, we are building soil. We can see it, we can smell it at FarmEd. We show kids, we show farmers, light bulb moments. Those grass lays are building a fertility for the next 4 years. And it happens very quickly, we can show that. But not only a diverse rotation, but diverse crops within that rotation. So not just ryegrass and a bit of clover, please. Herb-rich lays with 10, 12, 25 different species of grass, herbs, legumes and forbs in, and wildflowers doing different things. More diversity has been proven to offer more yield, as well as lots of other things, such as nutritional benefits to grazing animals. You're also going to see out there, you're probably seeing it already on your farms, more companion cropping, a vetch clover mix in with oilseed rape, for example, multiple benefits. So maximise crop diversity. Principle 3, keep the soil covered as much as you can through the year. So we're going to see more cover crops, and I'm sure you're seeing that already, undersowing, crimper rolling of those crops, etc., not disturbing them, but as much green cover, as much leaf and as much root activity as you can see. Good for the soil, not only building a healthy soil, but keeping it on the land from an erosion point of view as well. And it provides habitat through the season too. Principle 4, integrate grazing livestock. If we've got a diverse rotation, we've got more grass and herbs and things to eat and cover crops, let's utilise grazing livestock properly to give us a wonderful protein source in this country. Let's utilise that, cycle those nutrients too, which is key, so the circular economy of those nutrients. But also, did you know that livestock stimulate those living soils? They help with the buildup of soil exudates, the release of sugars. They help that bacterial fungal balance. The breath of a cow stimulates methanotrophs in the soil, which can help them be a slightly more carbon neutral. A wonderful dynamic system when you've got animals in the rotation. A big role to play, not only in the west of England and north, but also in the east. Principle 5, seek living roots all year. Don't let those roots die and perish. So basically, don't overgraze. If you graze that grass down to a couple of centimetres, your roots are contracting. So go for mob grazing, move stuff around, holistic management, tall grass grazing, eat a third, trample a third, leave a third. Feed the roots with compost, mulches, bale grazing, etc. And maybe more perennial cropping. Less annuals, more perennials with bigger roots. That's one of the key principles, principle number 5. And these aren't key principles, but things that I also want to see, and I think we're all seeing this anyway. Regen Ag doesn't just mean old school farming, dog and stick farming and some cattle and a bit of electric fencing. There is a big role for tech here, more precision and less waste. Let's monitor, let's get that data, let's do things as efficiently and as effectively as we can. Enterprise stacking, if you're a fan of people like Joel Salatin, you'll know what I mean. Let's use our land differently, not just wheat, barley, oilseed, rape. Let's stack enterprises. Let's get the cattle through first, then the sheep, then maybe chickens, and then pigs. Let's have the market garden. Let's have bees, feeding off of that sainfoin and the chicory. Wonderful. We can create 4, 5, 6 different enterprises off every acre if we think differently. That's regenerative to me. And I'd like to see more regenerative joint ventures out there. We need consumers, of course. We need to add value. We need to get those supply chains nice and short and keep the profit on farms and in bioregions. But consumers are very excited. They're a bit bored of some of the old logos and sustainability messages, but every consumer I speak to likes this word, regenerative. They get it, rebuilding, doing something differently and better if we're going to save the planet and produce more food. So let's grasp hold of that and make the most through, hopefully, education and Countryfile and social media. That'd be great. We're going to need more evidence, more data, of course. We're starting to do that through things like the Farm Carbon Calculator and lots of other tools that are starting to help us. But there's some big ones coming. Some big regenerative audits, labels and brands are on the horizon. Many of them coming out of America, but 1 or 2 now sort of bottom-up approaches in this country. So if you're not involved in one of those, you might be soon. And really finally, the sort of capstone to Regen Ag for me is leaving space for nature. I think a regenerative system must do that, either in a small way or a slightly bigger way. So maybe a bit more rewilding or wilding on our farms, leaving those gaps, boundaries, whole fields, some scrub, getting some cattle on there, rebuilding soil and selling that. How about regenerative eco and agritourism? It's being done, but I think we could do more of it. That, to me, sells it, the experiential to the public, and then we can sell them more regenerative food too. And finally, what's sort of more of an ethos, really, I think a regenerative future is about land sharing, not sparing, optimising that diverse range of public goods that we can get from our land and really making the most of it. And agroforestry, for example, in the bottom left is a great example of that, getting more than one crop from every acre and locking in carbon, great shade and shelter for cattle and browsing. It's a win-win-win. That's it from me. I think it was about 15 minutes. I think we're saving questions to the end. I'll leave you with that quote. I think have a little read of that while we just reflect. And if you want to get in touch with me or have a look at Real FarmEd, there's some contact details for myself and FarmEd and Connie Farm. Thank you very much.